How's it going, everybody? Dr. Coin back at it again, and welcome to the Coin Cave. I've been coin roll hunting here in Canada for around 2 years now. When I first started my coin roll hunting journey, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I had been watching some of the bigger American coin roll hunters like Rob Finds Treasure and Quinn's Coins, and was noticing all of the awesome old stuff they were able to pull out of circulation, especially things like old nickels and silver quarters and dimes. Those were what really interested me. I know that here in Canada, the half dollar was discontinued in the year 2002, so unfortunately we are not able to hunt half dollars here in Canada, and even if we were, the size difference between a silver half dollar and a nickel half dollar would mean that we would probably not be finding silver half dollars in half dollar box hunt. So the fact that we cannot hunt the 50-cent coins here in Canada is definitely a bummer, but that's alright, we have lots of other denominations to choose from. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to go through all of the different Canadian coin denominations, all the way from the Toonie, which is our $2 coin, all the way down to the penny. Now the penny was discontinued in the year 2012, but with a little luck or charisma, you can still get lucky and score some rolls or a box from time to time. Now I'm going to go through and give you guys some of the pros and cons for hunting each of the different denominations here in Canada. And then I'll share with you guys some of the tricks and tips that I have used and learned over the last 2 years whilst doing this crazy, insane hobby. Before I do get into this video, I would really appreciate if you guys would hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you are new and you would like to see more coin roll hunting and coin collecting videos just like this. And what do you say? We get into it. We have quite a bit to cover today. What I'm going to do is explain the positives and pros, and then the cons and negatives of each of the different denominations as we go through. We're going to start at Toonies, and then we are going to work our way through to the pennies. The Canadian Toonie or $2 coin was introduced in the year 1996 as a replacement for the long-standing Canadian $2 bill. The Toonie has been a canvas for many awesome commemorative coin designs over the years, and the Canadian Mint will also periodically release new designs with colored and uncolored variations into circulation so experienced and new collectors can enjoy the hobby. So that is going to be the first pro on this list, is all of the amazing commemorative and colored Toonie designs you can find while coin roll hunting. Even just in the time since I've got into coin roll hunting, the Canadian Mint has released several really amazing designs, like the colored V Toonie, the colored Insulin Toonie, and even before I got into the hobby, they were releasing really amazing stuff like the colored D-Day coins, the colored Armistice. One of the most sought after, rare, and valuable of all of the Canadian colored Toonies is the Glow in the Dark Toonie. It was minted, I believe, at under 1 million, and it will glow in the dark if you shine a black light on it. This is a unique feature that not many world circulation coins have, if any, and they are extremely scarce. Anytime people find them, whether you are a coin roll hunter or just a plain average citizen, they will cherry pick them out because you do not see them too often. So it is definitely fun when you are doing a hunt and you are trying to find that new colored coin to fill out your collection. So there are 20 rolls in a box of Toonies. Each roll is $50, and that makes up a $1,000 box. It is very easy to acquire Toonie rolls, whether you are picking up a whole box or you are going to a few different bank branches and asking for loose bundles. It does not take too much work to be able to do a hunt. If you want to do a $2,000 hunt, you're picking up less rolls than you would actually be hunting if you are hunting a full box of quarters or nickels technically. The boxes are also very light. There's only 20 rolls in the box, and they are mostly made of steel, so you will not have to be lugging super heavy quarter or nickel boxes around if you want to do some Toonie hunts. Toonie hunts are also very quick. They are the largest of all the denominations, and they only have 25 coins in each roll, so you can very quickly dump them out. Just flip over each of the coins, take a look at the reverse, make sure there isn't any cool designs or color on there, and then you can very easily put them all back into the roll because they are so large. So Toonie hunts do not take too long at all. So now we'll discuss some of the negatives of hunting Toonies. They are super expensive. It is $1,000 for a Toonie box. It is $50 a roll. I said earlier that you will get 25 coins in each roll, and you only get 20 rolls in each box. So your chance of finding good stuff is not nearly as high as hunting something like maybe dimes or nickels, where you get 40 coins in a roll for nickels and 50 in a roll for dimes. With Toonies, you do not get nearly as much. When it comes to finding some of the new Toonie releases, the Canadian Mint will release the special wrapped rolls on their website. They'll release the special collector's cards, and they should be put out in circulation, but a lot of the time, it'll seem like it'll be months, if not a year or longer, before you start to see these coins turn up. A lot of the time, experienced collectors that go to the banks and have really good relationships with the tellers will actually hog boxes and rolls and sell them for a premium. I absolutely hate this. It kind of ruins the hobby, and I don't know if they're in cahoots with the Canadian Mint or the coin companies, or who facilitates these deals and transactions, but I am not a fan. I like to be able to score a few wild rolls of these new releases if I can, and it seems to be getting harder and harder as time is going on. There's not a whole lot, if any, profit to be made off of Toonies. Now, if you are a collector like myself, then you might want to fill out a book, or you might want to grab that new colored Toonie for your collection, but actually making money reselling them is very difficult. The only way I have found that you are able to make money off selling Toonies is by putting them into colored lots and having different variations in there, and perhaps selling them to American coin collectors over the border or to new collectors, but it is very rare that an experienced coin roll hunter or collector will ever want to pay a premium for a Canadian Toonie of any variety, unless maybe it is the glow-in-the-dark or one they don't have in their collection. So not only is there not much money to be made off hunting Toonies, but you can actually lose a lot of money hunting them, because a lot of the time your Toonie rolls will be shorted. Now, if you hunt quarters and you're shorted 25 cents, for some hunters that hunt a box every day, that can be disastrous if you're getting shorted all the time. Now with Toonies, all it takes is one hunt to get shorted one coin, and you are instantly down $2. That is a loss that I am not willing to accept. And honestly, it's just too costly. If you think about hunting them in volume, you're going to be losing a lot of money. There are going to be short rolls, whether you like it or not, and you have to take some accountability for those. If you're consistently turning in shorted rolls to your bank, eventually you may get questioned. The customers that are buying those rolls may find that they are short, and they may complain to the bank. So you definitely want to make sure that the rolls you are turning in are not shorted. Also, there are counterfeit Toonies going around. When I first started coin roll hunting, I thought Toonies might be our savior here in Canada, since we do not have the half dollars. But in the last year, fake Toonies have been released into circulation. The most common years are 1996, 2004, and I believe 2000 is also a common year. If you guys would like to see a video on that, I will put it up in the top corner. But those things make it a huge risk to hunt Toonies. You are accountable. If you find any counterfeits, it is your responsibility to turn them in, and that is going to be a huge loss for you. I have mentioned, if you find a box of Toonies and the whole box is counterfeits, and you take that back to the bank and they do not want to accept it, you're going to be out $1,000, and you have to ask yourself every single time now that you want to hunt Toonies, is this hunt worth me losing hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars? Because I wouldn't like to hunt any less than $500 if I'm hunting something like Toonies. I don't think it's really worth it if you're hunting any less than $500. But at the same time, I don't really want to hunt any more than $500, because you're putting an enormous risk on yourself and a big liability at the same time. You don't want to be questioned on why you have these fake Toonies. How come you know they're fake? And it's just a stress that you do not want in your life. So I honestly think at this point, for Canadian coin roll hunters, it is probably better to avoid Toonies if you can, unless you can get newer uncirculated rolls. Then that might be a better option. But I think Toonies at this point have been compromised, and the fun is over for them. That doesn't mean that I'll never do another Toonie hunt, but I can definitely say they are going to be a lot more rare, and the more counterfeits I see, the less Toonie hunts I am likely to do. Alright, so now we will get into the loonie or the $1 coin. We will start with the pros. One of the things that I like about hunting loonies is they are super easy to acquire. They are probably one of the least hunted coins in Canada. Quarters, nickels, and dimes are just hunted to death religiously. I'll come across rolls that have been marked by other hunters very often, and I have never noticed anything like that with loonies. A lot of the times, if you go to the banks, they will have lots of bundles of loonies lying around. Businesses prefer to do transactions with things like Toonies and quarters, and loonies are a little bit left out and forgotten at this point. Sometimes NIFCs can actually make themselves into rolls, and they are not as identifiable. They do not have any color markings on them, so unless you're an experienced collector, being able to tell a coin that's been pulled out of a set from one of the special circulation coins can be a little bit tricky. Now, I know these NIFCs are out there. I found some really cool ones, like a 2017 50-cent coin, which is a bit of a loss, but at the same time, that coin is not intended for circulation, so it's special and it's probably worth at least $1 or more anyway, so I'll take stuff like that any day. I actually have a buddy who works at Starbucks, and he found an NIFC Toonie in the till. Someone had pulled it out of one of the 2000 to 2020 congratulations sets that have special loonies and decided to buy a coffee with it. So they are out there, you just have to keep your eyes open. Now, the loonie was first released in the year 1987, and they were trying to phase the silver dollar out of circulation, so the mintage figures on some of the early years of loonies are very high. So it is pretty common that you'll find older loonies that are in good shape. Like the 1992 and 1994 commemoratives, I found quite a few of those that are almost uncirculated, if not MS, and sometimes people will even find collection dumps of uncirculated older loonie rolls. Starting in 2020 with the United Nations commemorative, the Canadian Mint has started releasing colored loonies. Now, just a few months ago, the Canadian Mint released the second ever colored loonie, which is the Klondike Gold Rush. I think it is absolutely awesome that they are releasing all these new colored coin designs. I think it really encourages new people to get into the hobby, and it just draws a lot of attention to Canadian coins in general. Now, just like the $2 coins, loonies also come $25 per roll. It's only $25 for a roll of loonies, but the hunts are also extremely quick. Loonies are large, and they are very easy to look through, especially if you're trying to find the newer colored stuff. You can just fly through a roll in no time. Another thing that can make $1 coins a little more exciting to hunt than the Toonies is that you can actually find foreign coins. Now, I'm sure there is a small chance that maybe one day someone could find a foreign coin in a Toonie roll, but you can definitely find them in loonie rolls. It can be very common to find Sacagawea dollars. I know a few people that have found those in their loonie rolls before, and who knows what else could creep in. Just like I found that 2017 NIFC 50 cent in a loonie roll, you never know what you will find until you hunt it. Now, the reasons I do not like hunting loonies are there are very few colored loonies in circulation. Now, they did release the 2020 United Nations colored loonie, and they did just release the Klondike colored loonie, but once you have a few of these in your collection, there's no more point in really doing any more hunts. Like, you have to call it quits at some point once you have a certain amount of these coins stockpiled. You got to know when enough is enough, and I mean, it's not going to hurt anybody, and the only one it's going to hurt is you and your bank account. Now, if you really want to hoard all of these commemorative Toonies, it is your choice, but it is my humble opinion that you should probably just take these back and take that money and go do some quarter and dime hunts and find yourself some silver, because the chance of ever being able to get a premium for any of these commemorative Toonies is very low. A lot of these are actually released in a very high mintage, especially the color ones will very often be released at twice the mintage of the uncolored. So even though people will cherry pick the colored ones out a lot more, they will actually be less rare. And that isn't just for the coloreds. There honestly just isn't too much to find when it comes to loonies in general. You're going to have a lot of skunk hunts if all you are looking for is NIFCs. I can tell you that from personal experience. Once you have one or two of each of the different commemoratives, you do not really need to hold on to any more. There are a few errors and varieties you can look for, like in the Terry Fox loonie. There's some varieties that exist within the grass. You can look under a microscope, and those can be worth a little bit of a premium if they're in good shape. But other than that, there isn't too many key dates for loonies, and even if they do have a low mintage, it doesn't necessarily mean they will be that valuable, even if they're in an MS state. Most of the time, though, when it comes to loonies, you are very rarely, if ever, going to get above face value for them if you try to resell. Now, unlike the Toonies, loonie boxes are much heavier. They have 40 rolls per box, and they are about twice the width of a Toonie box, pretty similar to a quarter box in size, I would say. Now, if you're a young strapping lad like myself, you shouldn't have too much trouble lugging a single box of loonies around. But if you are an older gentleman and you pick up a box of loonies and maybe a box of nickels at the same time, you might just want to make two trips, because you don't want to put your back out lugging two boxes to the car at the same time trying to be a hero. You know, safety first, safety, then teamwork. Now it is the same price for a box of loonies as it is for a box of toonies. It is $1,000. You do get more rolls in the box, but that also means you have more of a chance of being shorted in those rolls. You have 40 chances of being shorted actually, and it is very rare that people will ever slip extra coins into your loonie or toonie rolls. Sometimes when you hunt quarters or nickels or dimes, you can get overstuffed rolls. Yeah, that doesn't happen too often with toonies and loonies. It's more often that you will get shorted, and you definitely want to be careful if you are hunting 40 rolls of $1 coins. Now the last thing that really sucks about hunting loonies is that you will never find one that is made of silver while you are coin roll hunting. Now they have made silver toonies in proof sets. They've made silver 5-cent pieces. I don't believe they have made silver pennies in any proof sets. They may have made silver loonies and pennies individually for certain years, but it is very rare that people are ever going to toss those into circulation, and if they do, it is going to be a unicorn. So it is much more often that you will find toonies that are sterling silver or nickels that are sterling silver out of the double dollar proof sets from the year, I believe, 1996 and on. All of the other denominations are silver except for loonies and pennies. So that is a big time bummer because I have found silver NIFCs in circulation. They are out there, but your chance of ever finding a silver loonie is far and few between. Alright, so now we shall get to the quarters, the 25-cent coins, which here in Canada are the bread and butter of coin roll hunting. I know guys that will hunt a box a day of Canadian quarters. A box a day keeps the doctor away. But there's a whole lot of stuff to find. I know in the United States, silver can be incredibly scarce, but it is actually pretty common here in Canada. We had silver quarters up until the year 1968, and even in the year 1968, they made half of the quarters, or a little less than half, out of 50% silver, and it can be pretty hard for someone that isn't experienced to be able to tell the difference, so those can be pretty common to find in your hunts. So the first thing I love about coin roll hunting quarters is all of the key dates that you can find. Now, the first modern key date is 1970. That will be a common key date that repeats amongst the different denominations. But 1991 is also a major key date for quarters. It was minted around 400,000, and it is honestly what I consider a unicorn. It is very rare that you find business strikes or circulation coins that are minted so low. It is an anomaly that is extremely rare. You do not find that, especially in North American coins like American and Canadian coins. It is worth anywhere from $5 to $15 for just one circulated 1991 quarter. So it is worth more than silver value a lot of the time. People will pay for these things. So they are great to find. 2001 No P is also one you should be looking for. Now, just like the Canadian toonies, the quarters have all sorts of commemorative designs, and starting in 2004, they actually released the world's first ever colored circulation coin, the 2004 Remembrance Poppy. Now that kicked off a whole trend, and since then they have been pumping out these colored circulation coins in mass quantities, and I absolutely love it. Some of these colored coins can actually be pretty low mintage and pretty rare, some of which are the 2015 colored Canada flag, the 2015 colored poppy, and the 2017 Hope for a Green Future. The two colored 2015s are minted around 6.5 million, which definitely makes them key dates, and the 2017 Hope for a Green Future is probably minted even less than that. It has an unknown mintage, which adds a level of mystery to it, which I love, and if you find it coin roll hunting, that is awesome. There are also the three colored Olympic coins, the two hockey and the Cindy Klassen. These are minted at 3 million a piece, and they make quarter hunting very fun in Canada. It is nice to have a coin that is such a low mintage and so rare that is also colored. When you see one of those pop up a few coins ahead in a roll, it always gets exciting. Your heart always starts to pump. And with those colored hockey coins, it definitely adds a lot of fun to quarter hunts. Now, by far the best thing about hunting quarters here in Canada is the fact that you can find so much silver. The design for Canadian quarters hasn't changed since the year 1937 on the reverse. Now, the obverse design changes every time a new monarch takes over, which can make cherry picking them out a little bit easier for people that aren't super into the hobby, but for the most part, this is actually a huge benefit for us Canadian coin roll hunters. The chance of someone who isn't experienced in Canadian coins actually keeping a silver caribou quarter is much less likely than them probably just holding on to a newer colored coin. Most people don't know the value of silver, And with so many modern caribou quarters floating around in circulation, it's very easy for a silver caribou to slip under the radar of a bank teller or just your average everyday Joe. Even though the design changed for quarters in the year 1936, the size for them has stayed pretty much the same since their inception around the year 1870. So it actually makes your chances of finding old quarters a lot higher. Now, the oldest quarter that I have personally found is a George VI, but I have known of Canadian coin roll hunters that live just a few cities over from me that have found George V's in circulation, and it is not completely unreasonable to think that someone could find a Vicky out there one day. Of all of the different denominations, quarters are by far the easiest to get from banks. Whether you're picking up a box or you're picking up bundles of 10 or just loose rolls, banks will almost always have some quarters on hand unless that bank is being hit up by other coin roll hunters. In that case, they may have a bit of a coin shortage, but very often banks will keep quite a few boxes of quarters on hand, so you should have no trouble being able to score at least a couple of $100 if you want to do a quick hunt. Now, quarters aren't quite as hefty as loonies or toonies, but they are still a decent size, and if you are going to re-roll your coin after your hunt, it makes re-rolling it a little bit easier. If you're re-rolling dimes or nickels, sometimes you can fumble trying to get them back into the rolls, but quarters are pretty easy peasy, unless it's those devilish plastic rolls. You can also find a lot of American quarters during your coin roll hunts. Now, I have found one silver US quarter so far, and that was just an absolutely biblical find. I know that American coin roll hunters can go months and years, if not their whole career, without ever finding a silver quarter, so that was definitely a blessing from the coin gods. But there is some other good US stuff you can look for. You can also look for W quarters. I have not found one of those in circulation yet, but I am praying that maybe one day one will get dropped onto my lap. I know those things can have a pretty good premium. Sometimes they can even be worth more than silver value depending on who is appraising it. So there's definitely a lot of good reasons to hunt Canadian quarters. Now, some of the reasons I do not like hunting Canadian quarters are the skunk hunts. Now, I have had a lot of success with quarters. I have found some collection dumps. I've had hunts where I found 3, I think 4 silvers maybe in one hunt, and that is a good profit. That's like a $20, $30 profit depending on the silver value. But for almost every hunt that I have filmed and had a lot of success, I have also had lots of skunk hunts. And there is nothing worse than having a skunk hunt where all you find is maybe one decent colored coin or maybe like one 1970. Sometimes you won't even find that. A lot of the glory in coin roll hunting is all of these epic finds, finding silver, finding these super epic key dates, or finding something that's really old. But there's not a lot of attention put on all of the skunk hunts and all of the negative things when it comes to coin roll hunting. I have had so many skunk hunts, and I probably do not live in the best area for coin roll hunting. I have a lot working against me. There's a lot of ARP boxes and rolls in my area, as well as uncirculated new rolls and boxes. So a lot of people seem to have it better towards the coasts. If you live on the west or east coast, you seem to have some really good luck. But I think there's a lot of coin roll hunters where I am, and I have a lot of skunk hunts. I'm willing to put it out there. It sucks, but that's the reality of coin roll hunting. You are not going to find treasure every single time you go out there and look. If you're a metal detector, if you're a coin roll hunter, if you like to go out there magnet fishing, you are not going to find that gold or that treasure every single time. But if you look, eventually one day you will find it, and I have been rewarded in the past, and I know I'll be rewarded in the future. So you guys keep your eyes open and just don't get discouraged. If you have a lot of skunk hunts, just keep going. But I can definitely say it sucks when you have a lot of skunk hunts. Now, the boxes for quarters are really heavy, and I usually like to hunt 2 boxes at a time. I've done, I think, $1,500 was my biggest quarter hunt so far. It just increases your chances of finding good stuff. Your chance of finding silver in 100 rolls is a lot greater than finding it. It's double than finding it in 50 rolls. So I like to increase my chances as much as I can. And when you're picking up 2 boxes of quarters and you have to carry it to your car and then carry it up 8 flights of stairs, because I live in a walk-up apartment, it can get a little cumbersome. And even if you're an older gentleman, just carrying them into your office and you live upstairs in a house, that can be a little bit heavy. You definitely want to be careful. You don't want to put your back out carrying coins. I actually have done that in the past, carrying I think 2 boxes of nickels just in an awkward way, putting them in my car. I put my back out, and this was when I was going to the gym and lifting every day. So be careful out there, guys. The boxes are heavy. You don't want to put your back out or hurt yourself, and then you won't be able to get to the banks and hunt. I would say the highest likelihood of you being shorted in your coin rolls comes from quarters. Because quarters are so heavily circulated and hunted, a lot of the time people will put foreign coins in there that will be worth less than the face value of Canadian quarters, or they will put nickels in. So they will put like a nickel in between quarters to give the illusion that the roll is full. This is an absolute nightmare to deal with. If you turn those coins into the bank and they check the rolls and see that kind of stuff inside, you are going to be in big doo-doo. But all I know is there is a special place in the 7th circle of the coin hells for whoever it is that jams those nickels in between the quarters and the rolls. One of the biggest problems that we face here in Canada as coin roll hunters is a program called the ARP, the Alloy Recycling Program. What this program does is the banks will contact coin companies like Brinks or Garter World, the companies that pick up their coin, and then the companies have sorting machines that will sort the coins according to their metal composition, whether they are steel or nickel or silver, and then they will melt the coins down, they're nickel or silver, and they will try and recover profits from the money in the precious metals that they melt down. The biggest indicators of ARP rolls is if they are machine wrapped and they have enders that are not brand new and uncirculated, but they are not any older than the year 2000. Now, if you search through these ARP rolls, you will never find anything before the year 2000. You will never find any silver. The only thing that you can find that will be any good is maybe some of the newer colored key dates. But I would say for the most part, hunting ARP rolls is a complete waste of time. In the United States, if you are coin roll hunting half dollars or quarters or dimes, and you do an edge check and you see a silver, it will stick out like a sore thumb. The edges of American coins are plated with copper, which makes distinguishing silver from clad coins very easy. In Canada, that is not the case. Our coins will either be composed out of silver, nickel, or steel, and it makes checking the edges a little bit harder for silver. A lot of the time, nickel coins will be a lot brighter than the steel coins, and if you have clear plastic rolls and you pick them up from the bank, they will trick you a lot of the time. You'll see an older nickel coin that might be a little bit dirty, and you might think you have a silver, and it's a bit of a disappointment. And there are also fire coins. If a Canadian quarter is very dirty, or it goes through a fire or gets heated up, it will change color or size on the rim, and a lot of the time these can trick you as well, and you might think you have a silver, but lo and behold, it is a modern coin that is just dirty or has been through some extreme heat treatment. The reasons that I like coin roll hunting dimes. Now, just like quarters, the design for dimes has not changed since the year 1937, and the size has also stayed the same since the 1870s when Canadian coins were first released as we know them. So ever since the year 1937, we have had that iconic blue nose on our dimes. They are about to release the first ever colored dime in about a month from now into circulation. I am very excited for that, and it is definitely going to add some flavor and spice to coin roll hunting dimes. And because the design hasn't changed in almost 80 years, it makes finding silver dimes probably the most realistic of all the denominations. Quarters are a lot larger and used a lot more often, so if somebody finds a quarter with an older obverse, like let's say George VI or George V, or even a young head obverse, they might know that they have something that's a little bit different and hang on to it. But dimes, because of their size, will fly under the radar a lot more often. People will not even look at them when they do small transactions. So there's a lot more silver dimes coming in and out of cash registers and businesses. To do a dime hunt is not too expensive either. If you are just getting into coin roll hunting and you want to test the waters, maybe dip your toes in a little bit, I would say probably get started with dimes. It is $250 a box, and you have a pretty good chance of finding silver. I would say it's honestly about 1 silver per box ratio. You might get a little less, you might get a little more, give or take here and there. but you got to give it a chance, test it out, and see what the boxes are like at your banks in your area. Once you've tested this out, if you decide that this is for you and you found a bank in an area that you like, maybe you want to do more than one box at a time, you want to do 2 dime boxes, well, that will be pretty easy because dimes are one of the lightest of all of the denominations and the boxes are actually the smallest. So you can probably single fist a box in each hand if you are going upstairs or you are going inside your house or something like that. It should not be too much of a burden for you to carry. Now, for all the great reasons there are to hunt dimes, there are quite a few reasons I do not like to hunt dimes. Dimes do not have very many key dates at all. A lot of the key dates will repeat through the denominations, like 1991, 1970, 2000p, or 2000 no p. But with dimes, the only key date you're really looking for in modern dimes is 1970. That is a great key date, and it is extremely low mintage. Even though this dime is minted around 5 million, it is extremely scarce. To put it in relative terms, the 2000p nickel has a very similar mintage, and I've probably found a full roll of those, if not more, and I've only found one of the 1970 dime. There's a couple more key dates that are like unicorns. There's only like 10,000 to 100,000 of them made, so your chances of finding those are slim to nil. Other than that, there ain't a whole lot to look for when it comes to modern Canadian dimes. When you are hunting Canadian dimes looking for silver and you don't find any key dates and you have a skunk hunt for dimes, it is one of the worst feelings ever. It feels like such a waste of time, and it really sucks because there just isn't a whole lot to look for besides silver, and it really makes filming dime hunts not very much fun for Canadian coin roll hunters. It's very rare that you'll ever film a great dime hunt. I mean, you'll start the hunt off and you'll do your intro and then you won't find anything, and then the next time you do a dime hunt, you figure you won't film it, and then you'll find all the good stuff. It's funny the way that kind of stuff works out. And when it comes to starting off a video and then having a skunk hunt and wasting your time, I would say nothing is more frustrating than dimes. When it gets to the point that I'm at now where I really want to find a silver during every hunt that I do, you have to start picking up larger volumes of coins. You have to pick up 2 or more boxes at a time. And I can tell you, if you pick up 2 boxes of dimes and you hunt them all and re-roll them all and you don't find any silver or key dates, there is nothing really more discouraging than that. And because dimes are so small, it makes having to re-roll them a huge pain too. Fumbling them into the rolls can sometimes make them get all over the floor and all over the place. Eventually, I'm sure you'll get your own technique and skill down, and I'm pretty good at it at this point, but I definitely enjoy putting loonies and toonies back into coin rolls a lot more than I enjoy putting pennies and dimes into rolls. Because of their size, dimes can be incredibly annoying to hunt. They are very hard to see, and if you're trying to check for things like key dates or errors, it can really be a strain. Just like most of our other coins here in Canada, our dimes are victims of the ARP. If you find rolls that are machine wrapped rolls and you don't see any enders that are before the year 2000, it is most likely that you are not going to find any silver or anything older in there. You might still want to bust just one of the rolls open just to make sure you don't have any nickel dimes in there. If you have any from the 1990s and earlier, then it will mean they are not ARP rolls, and then you are probably good to hunt them and there might be something good in there, because if you do get machine wrapped rolls and they are not ARP, you are probably going to have a better chance of finding silver than in any customer wrapped rolls. The good things about coin roll hunting Canadian nickels. Now, the design for Canadian nickels hasn't changed since the year 1937. We have had that iconic beaver design on our nickels. Now, unlike the other denominations, the size for nickels actually changed in the year 1922. They used to be smaller before that, and they were composed of silver. Those 5-cent coins are commonly referred to as fish scales, and the chance of finding one of those in a nickel roll is slim to nil. I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, and I'm sure someone out there has found one, but I don't think any of us are, and if you do, that'll be quite the day. But from the year 1922 until the year 1936, the size of the nickels is basically the same as they are today. Besides quarters, nickels are essential to Canadian coin roll hunting. There is a lot of good stuff to find, and there is a lot of key dates. And if we did not have nickels, honestly, it would be pretty hard to be able to validate coin roll hunting. It adds a lot of diversity to our hunts to be able to switch back and forth between quarters and nickels. And I think they are and will always be the go-to for most serious coin roll hunters, especially if you can't ever score any pennies. Nickels are very affordable. They are only $100 a box, and you get 50 rolls in each box. There is 40 nickels in each roll, so your chance to find good stuff is very high. If you want, you can hunt 2 or 3 or more boxes at the same time, and you won't be breaking the bank. Nickels are also very profitable. If you find certain dates like 1970s, 1991s, 2000 Ps, they actually will have a decent premium to them. Now, some people will be skeptical on the value of some of the modern key dates, but I actually know that they can sell for anywhere from 50 cents to $1, whether to American coin collectors or to people just getting into the hobby. Those dates can be very hard to find to fill out sets, so sometimes finding those rare key dates can definitely be profitable to hold on to. Now, besides the modern key dates, there are lots of older key dates you can find as well, and your chances of finding older coins are probably highest in nickels. Of all of the George VI and V's I have found, most have been in nickels. I have found a few George V pennies, but I have never found any George V quarters or dimes. The chances of people releasing older coins like that into circulation from their collections is not very high unless a collection gets handed down and maybe a family member takes it into the bank. But with nickels, it's not necessarily the same case. The chance of coming across nickel collection dumps seems to be a lot higher. I have actually found entire rolls of George VI and George V nickels. They have been some of the most epic hunts I have had. If you want to see those, I'll put some of the links up in the top corner for you. But I know that they are out there. The value is not super exceptional on these. A roll of George VI or George V can vary anywhere in value between, I would say, $5 all the way to $20. If it's something like a Tomback or a 1944 or a 1945, and they're in decent shape, then you're going to be talking better money, $50 to $100, but the price is all over the place. But some collectors will just get sick of stacking their old nickels, and they'll just turn them into the bank for face value. Because the value is not exceptional at this point on George V and George VI, for some people it doesn't make sense to hold on to them. I'll see on Facebook people asking all the time, should I hold on to these rolls or turn them into the bank? I say definitely hold on to them, but if you want to turn them into the bank, just let me know where and when, and I will go pick them up for face value, no problemo. Now, something really cool about Canadian nickels is from the year 1942 until the year 1962, our nickels were actually 12-sided here in Canada. It definitely helps you be able to cherry pick the good ones out a little bit more, especially if you're getting clear rolls. You can take a look inside and see if there's any goodies waiting for you in that hunt. I know I have had several hunts where I've spotted 12-edge inners on my clear rolls, and it is definitely something to look forward to. But also, it's an indication that you're going to have some good stuff in your hunt. If you spot 12 edgers, you know it's going to be a little bit older, and it just adds a little bit more fun and intrigue to our hunts here in Canada, and it definitely makes our nickels stand apart from some of the other countries in the world. There are several errors and varieties for Canadian nickels, some of which are the 1980 has a doubling variety, the 1964 has an extra water line, 1962 has a doubling error, the 1965 has the large beads detached jewel. I could just go on and on and on. The 1990 bare belly. There is so many errors and varieties for nickels that you definitely want to get yourself a microscope. But also, it adds a lot of fun to the hunts. It really spices them up when you have the microscope out and you're checking some of these things. Some of these errors are not too hard to find either. Like the 1990 bare belly, it is pretty rare to find a full bare belly example, but they are out there. The 1964 waterline, they do exist. You have a pretty high chance of finding foreign coins in your nickel rolls as well, whether it is US and you would like to hang on to those and make a profit from the exchange rate eventually. You can do the same with quarters or dimes, or you're finding things like Bahama or Jamaican or East Caribbean. You find lots of foreign coins, at least I do, and it definitely adds a level of intrigue to our Canadian nickel hunts. With just a few exceptions, Canadian nickels made from the year 1922 until the year 1981 were composed of 99.9% nickel. Canada was and is one of the world's largest producers of nickel, and the precious metal's value has gone up substantially over the years. Because of this, the value of a 99.9% nickel 5-cent coin is actually 11 cents right now. And from the year 1981 until 1999, they were made from cupronickel, which is a blend of 75% copper and 25% nickel. So depending on what your coin roll hunting goals are, maybe stacking 5-cent coins for their nickel value may be a good option in the long run, and you might be able to make a decent profit one day off of it. But just a friendly reminder that it is illegal to melt down or destroy your country's coins or currency in any form whilst you are in the country. Now, it is very unlikely, but there is a chance that you may be able to find silver nickels out there. There are silver American war nickels that can be found in Canadian circulation. I have found one, and I know of a few other Canadian coin roll hunters that have found their share of American silver war nickels, but you can also find Canadian silver proofs. I have found a few frosted proofs in my day, and I have found one silver proof nickel, and they are actually worth a decent amount of money. If you find a sterling silver proof nickel out of a double dollar proof set, it'll be worth around $5 to $7 in silver weight. And even if the coin isn't made out of silver, if you find a frosted proof from one of the earlier years, those are still awesome NIFC coins, and they are out there. So some of the annoying things about hunting Canadian nickels is how heavy the boxes are. Those things are like bricks, and even though they are a smaller denomination, I like to hunt 2 or 3 boxes at a time. And when you're picking those things up and dropping them back off at the bank, I can tell you they are extremely cumbersome, especially when you are returning them. It is super annoying. If you have to return multiple boxes, it gets very tedious. And having to return your coin and take it back to banks is probably one of the worst things, if not the worst thing, about coin roll hunting. And when the boxes weigh 1,000,000 pounds, it definitely doesn't make that any easier on you. Now, I would say the 2 most common denominations to hunt here in Canada are probably quarters and nickels at this point, and probably for quite a while now. I do tend to find quarter rolls that are marked by other hunters very often, but a lot of the time when I pick up full boxes of nickels, they will have absolutely nothing in the box, which tells me that they have probably been hunted, especially if there aren't any nickel bullion nickels in there or anything before the year 1964. So nickels are hunted religiously. I would say they are probably the most heavily hunted of all the denominations because they are so cheap and you can pick up so many boxes at a time, and your chance of finding collection dumps is probably the highest. People will hunt nickels more often than any other coin. And for this reason, the chance of having a skunk hunt when you are hunting nickels is going to be drastically increased. It definitely seems like I found a lot more in the beginning when I started coin roll hunting. A lot more George VI seemed to be common to find in my boxes, and my hunts have been getting more and more skunky. Now, this could be just plain old luck, or what I think it probably is there is an uptick in Canadian coin roll hunting, both because of YouTube and Facebook, and just because of the pandemic, people sitting at home with not much to do. The banks were open during most of the time, so people could go out, grab a few rolls from their bank, look through it, and it wouldn't cost them too much money. So because everyone and their mums are coin roll hunting right now, your chances of finding 12 edge or George VI or even young head nickels are going to be decreased. Some really big pains when you are hunting nickels is getting ARP or uncirculated boxes. This happens all the time for me, and this is why I prefer to not grab or order boxes ahead of time. Almost every time I order a box ahead of time from a bank, it will be an uncirculated brand new box, either 2020 or 2021. And even if it's not one of those, it'll be ARP a lot of the time as well. So I just like to save myself the trouble, and a lot of the time I'll grab individual bundles of nickels. I've had a lot of success doing this in the past, and I have stumbled across some pretty epic collection dumps. And if you aren't getting uncirculated or ARP or searched rolls, then you're probably getting your nickels in clear plastic dollar store rolls, which I can tell you are a pain and a nightmare. Super common when it comes to nickels. You'll see them for some of the other denominations sometimes, but I hate these things. People will mummify these things in tape. You have to have a letter opener to open these things up. Putting them back into the rolls is a nightmare, especially for nickels. Man, do I hate those clear rolls. So now on to the pennies, the last denomination we are going to be covering here today. Now, pennies stopped production in the year 2012. They didn't necessarily stop circulating, but they have made a lot of efforts to pull them out of circulation. The banks are told if people turn pennies in that they are to send them back to the Royal Canadian Mint or to have the coin companies take them away and send them through the ARP. Also, coin star machines will also take your pennies and basically do the same thing. They'll send them to the coin companies or to the Canadian Mint to be melted down. Because the penny hasn't been in production since the year 2012 and it's meant to be taken out of circulation, it can make finding them here in Canada extremely difficult. I have never been able to find a full penny box. I can score some rolls here and there, but I do not have a lot of luck. The banks that I go to, they are told to give them to the Mint with no exception. If you are going to score penny boxes, it seems like your best chance is to go to a TD Canada Trust, and you really need to build a good relationship or rapport with the bank tellers or have a good talk with the bank manager, because the head teller in most cases will want to ship those back to the Canadian Mint. Most banks will not ship pennies out unless they have a full box, so they will slowly let people turn rolls of pennies in and let them accumulate until they have the full box, and then they will ship it out to the Mint. This may be a negotiating point for you because it is a pain and it does cost the banks money to ship the pennies out. So if you are willing to take some of their loose rolls offhand, or you offer, they may be willing to strike some sort of deal with you. And it's always nice to be able to hunt pennies. They're only 50 cents a roll and $25 a box. You can hunt a lot of coins and it does not cost you too much at all. They're the most affordable of all the coins, and it is one thing that I definitely wish we had more access to here in Canada. I see the American coin roll hunters finding wheat pennies and Indian heads, and sometimes I wish I could travel back in time before the year 2012 and coin roll hunt pennies when they're in their heyday, just like the Americans can right now. I have heard rumblings and rumors that the American penny may cease production in the year 2022. It does make sense, honestly, in terms of an economic standpoint. I believe it costs the Canadian Mint and US Mint more money to produce the penny than they are actually worth in face value. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to produce them any longer when you can just round transactions up and down to the nearest 5 or 10 cents. I don't know how much longer the nickel will be around here in Canada. It may still be around for a very long time, or they may find that that's not necessary as well. They may just prefer to do larger coin transactions, or eventually we might just go to digital-based currency. You never know. I might be crazy, but I think it's heading in that direction eventually. So hunting pennies is very cheap and affordable, and it would be awesome if we had that option all the time, but it definitely makes it a nice little treat when we are able to score the pennies. Because the pennies are harder to find unless you are a seasoned or experienced coin roll hunter, it definitely adds a little bit of value to them. Pretty much every penny is not intended for circulation at this point. Coin roll hunting pennies can actually be the most profitable depending on what your goals are. If you are stacking them for copper, the metal value of American and Canadian pennies exceeds the face value. Most Canadian pennies before the year 1996 will be composed of 98% copper or higher. Thus, because of the value of copper, you can easily charge 2 or 3 times the face value for these Canadian pennies if you decide to sell them in rolls, bundles, or boxes. Just like the other denominations, the design on the Canadian penny has stayed the same since the year 1937, and the size has been the same since the year 1922. Before that, we had large pennies here in Canada, and you aren't ever going to find those in rolls of pennies. Maybe one day in a roll of loonies or toonies, but I doubt it. Because the size and design of the penny hasn't changed in such a long time, it makes finding collection dumps, especially of George VI's, a little bit more common. I'm sure coin roll hunting has been going on for a very long time, so even before the penny was abolished in the year 2012, there probably were a few out there that were cherry picking all of the old pennies out of circulation, but a lot of people were just hoarding away boxes of copper, and because of that fact, the chance of being able to find a box with a decent collection dump is not too unlikely. A lot of the time, if you find good stuff for pennies, it will all be bunched in together because it will all be turned in at the same time together from someone who has been hoarding those pennies away for quite a while now. Not only can you find copper pennies or good oldies like the George VI or George V, but you can also find lots of varieties and heirs for pennies as well. Your chance of finding brokerage or struck through pennies is a lot higher than most of the other denominations. You can also find blank planchettes. Those aren't too uncommon, whether they're Canadian or American. They are both out there, and some of the most valuable and rare coins in the world exist in the penny denomination, like the 1943 copper penny, the 1944 steel penny. You never know. One of those bad boys could have accidentally made their way north over the border here, could have made their way into a penny box, and could be sitting in some guy's basement in a massive stockpile of copper penny boxes, waiting to be turned in and found one day. Yeah, that might just be wishful thinking, but for a $25 investment, if you can get your hands on pennies, I suggest you pick them up at every opportunity you can, whether it's boxes, bundles, or rolls. Grab them while you can, because they are not around too often, and they are only going to be more and more scarce as time goes on. Some of the things that I do not like about coin roll hunting pennies here in Canada is they are almost impossible to find, especially for me. I have asked and I've asked and I've asked, and these tellers, they just will not give me any pennies no matter what I do. I can get on my knees and I can beg, and they will just not. They could have a box sitting right in front of my face and they will still not hand it over to me. They would rather ship it back to the mint to be melted down. That's all right. Nothing I can do about that. I'll just hunt something else. But at the same time, it really sucks when I have literally seen boxes of pennies behind the counter, and they have not turned them over to me. Someone must have turned them in before I showed up earlier that day. I'm actually just remembering that I was able to do a full $25 penny hunt, but it was a $25 bag of pennies that I had to buy from a gentleman that was standing in line at the bank. When he went up to the teller, I actually went over and kind of awkwardly asked, "Oh, am I able to buy those pennies off you guys?" And they insisted that I buy them off of him before he turns them in. That's how difficult this bank made it for me. So pennies are a big pain for me, and whenever I have been able to score them, it has been extremely difficult and been a challenge. And most of the time, even if you do get lucky and you happen to score a few wild Canadian penny rolls, or maybe even a box, which is epic, and you do a penny hunt, you will not find too much. You'll find some young heads, maybe you'll find one or two George heads, and it is pretty darn anticlimactic. And the thing that makes the boring penny hunt suck the most is the fact that pennies stink. They really stink. They're the dirtiest of all the coins, and the copper and the metals and the corrosion, whatever it is, it just makes them absolutely stink. I almost want to puke every time I pull a roll of pennies out of the roll, and I just cannot wait for the penny hunt to end so I can wash my dirty fingers. We probably don't want to know where many of these pennies have been. Pennies are like the lowest of the low. They will sit in parking lots. They will sit in urinals. They'll sit in ashtrays. Dogs will pee on them and all sorts of stuff, and then people will just roll them up, and then you get the pleasure of searching through them. So having to sit there and sift through all those dirty, stinky pennies with your bare hands and then sit and scrub for like 10 minutes after, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. If you are able to score some pennies here in Canada, you better hope that those paper rolls are in good shape, or that they are not machine wrapped rolls, because if you need to buy replacement penny rolls here in Canada, good luck. The only place you can buy them is online or on Amazon, because they do not produce pennies here anymore. It seems like the coin companies do not want to make penny rolls. It's also pretty hard to find boxes. If you are stacking your pennies up and you want to roll them all up and keep them in a box, you'll have to go around to a few different banks and ask if they still keep the penny boxes in stock. It seems most of them do not, and then every once in a while I'll find a bank that has none of the other boxes and has an overabundance of empty penny boxes. So if you do manage to score a box of pennies, maybe just return them all in loose bundles and hold on to the box so you can use it for your future hunts. Well, that is it. We have made it through all of the different Canadian denominations that are available for us to coin roll hunt. If I had to give my opinion and tell you guys what I think the best coin to hunt in Canada right now is, I would say it is definitely quarters. Quarters are my favorite to hunt. There's a whole lot of awesome stuff to look for, whether you're looking for some of the newer rare colored stuff that I mentioned, or you're looking for key dates or silver, or maybe you're looking for that super elusive 1991, the unicorn, the mystical Canadian quarter. If you found one of those, you are one lucky hunter. That's all I can say. But nickels are definitely very fun to hunt. They're probably my second favorite. If I had to give my least favorite denomination to hunt, it would be loonies at this point. I have done probably 5 to 10 loony hunts, and I have been skunked more times than I care to admit. In my last few loony hunts, I've been completely skunked looking for these new Klondike loonies, and I'm on the verge of just giving up and never hunting loonies again. If you guys want to see me hunt loonies again, let me know down in the comments. Maybe you guys can pull me out of loony limbo. But I just want to give you guys a few quick notes before I end this one today. Whether you are a new coin roll hunter or experienced, hopefully you'll be able to find this video helpful. Through some of the lessons that I have learned, this is the code that I live by to avoid having as many skunk hunts as I can and to have as much success as possible. So what I can say, if you are just getting into Canadian coin roll hunting or you've been hunting for a while, is be prepared to get skunked. When you watch videos online, whether it's my videos or you're watching videos of other Canadian coin roll hunters, or maybe you're watching some of the popular American guys, you'll see them pulling all these awesome coins out, Buffalo nickels, Victory nickels. You'll see them pulling out Walking Liberty half dollars. Those are the best moments of coin roll hunting. We are always showing you the highlights. What we are not showing you is the low points, which there are many. That's what I liked about Rob Finds Treasure when I first got into this, especially with his dime hunts and quarter hunts, is he would show you a lot of his skunk hunts, and he would have like continuation videos where he would start a quarter hunt off, he wouldn't find anything, and then he would hunt another box in that same video until he found something. And I admired that. I think there's integrity in filming coin roll hunting when you are honest and when you show your skunk hunts every once in a while, because not every hunt is going to be successful. If every hunt was successful, then probably everybody would do this because everyone would be able to make a good living off of it. But that's not the way that it works. You have to be prepared to get skunked, and if you are getting skunked, you have to be willing to switch things up. You have to maybe be willing to travel outside your coin zone, maybe to a different city, maybe try out a different bank, a different branch. You just have to try different things and find what works for you. Now, if you're having trouble getting boxes, or maybe the boxes that you're getting are ARP or uncirculated, a trick that I use is instead of always grabbing full boxes, I will grab bundles of 10 rolls. Usually if you go into a bank and you ask if you can get a bundle, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. It means 10 rolls. And sometimes you can go in and you can just ask for 2 or 3 bundles, or you can ask for 5 if you're daring. And I think honestly the chance of stumbling across collection dumps is a little bit higher if you do this, because if someone brings a few bundles of a collection dump in, maybe you won't get all of it, but maybe you'll get some of it. But if you get a box that none of those rolls made their way into, then you're not getting any of that collection dump. Everyone will have their own theories on this matter. There are some boxes that can be really good to hunt. If you ever find a box that has a transit stamp on it and it is machine wrapped, then most likely that is going to be the best box you can ever find. Those things are like unicorns in terms of boxes, and I'm really hoping I can get my hands on one of those one day. It's also really nice if you score machine wrapped rolls that aren't ARP. If you see an older diadem ender or something like that, it's usually a pretty good sign that there might be silver or at least some good stuff in there. But if you're grabbing loose bundles, at least you can kind of get a look at what kind of rolls they're giving you. You're not going to get a whole box of ARP or uncirculated dumped onto you when they come out from the back, which is always kind of a crappy feeling. Now, it is very important, whether you are starting coin roll hunting or you are an experienced coin roll hunter that has been doing this forever, that you set goals for yourself. This is one problem that I had in the beginning, is I was just trying to keep anything and everything that I found that I thought was old. It started off with like 70s nickels, and then as time has gone on, with I'm sure most hunters, you start becoming a lot more stringent in what you want to keep. You want to only keep the stuff that at some point maybe you can sell for a profit, something that's either filling out your collection or something that is really desirable for you. But other than that, there's not much point in stacking certain coins. For example, coins like the 1973 RCMP quarter, the 1992 provincial quarters, the 1960 to 1964 nickels. These are coins that are right on the cusp of having a premium. They're older, they're made of nickel, but it's very hard to sell them for more than their face value. So you have to ask yourself, what is your exit strategy? If you want to get out of this, do you want to just take all your coins back to the bank and turn them in for face value one day? Or is your plan to eventually sell these coins for a profit? If that is your goal, then it's probably better to just turn those coins in now, and then you can probably do more hunts, find more silver, and find more of the actual key dates that will be worth money one day. You should always try and build good rapport and relationships with your bank tellers. This will only help you out in the end. You'll be able to get more access to rolls. They won't cut you off. Maybe they'll be more willing to accept your coin if it's your dump bank. And if anyone turns in anything that is older or interesting looking, they may be willing to hold it for you. This may seem easier said than done, but just a simple smile, asking them how their day is, and just talking a little bit about coins with them will definitely go a long way in the end. Though we should never be pushy or demanding when it comes to coins, don't be too afraid to ask the tellers for certain things. Like if you're asking if they have any pennies, if you're asking if they have any silver or half dollars, it doesn't hurt you or the bank or anyone to ask. And if they do have them, a lot of the time with silver dollars and half dollars, they will actually sell them to you. They'll be a little more picky with older bills because they are supposed to turn all of that stuff back to the mint, but it can be a real pain for them. And if someone turns something in that day, you have a pretty good chance that you'll be able to score it from them. And the last and most important tip I can give you guys is find what works for you. Which denomination works for you. Find if you want to film your hunts, if you don't want to film your hunts, if you just want to take pictures and post it on Facebook for everyone to see your finds, or if you just want to keep to yourself and let me or other hunters know in the comments what it is you find. You know, this hobby is all about what works best for you, what you enjoy, and having fun. If you don't have fun doing this, you probably shouldn't do it. It's very rare that anyone will ever be able to do this for a living or make a very big profit off of it. For the most part, coin roll hunting will always be a hobby and a pastime. That doesn't mean that you can't make a couple bucks off of it, and it doesn't mean you can't turn it into something amazing. Coin roll hunting is one of the easiest and last forms of treasure hunting. Just about anyone can do it. All you have to do is go down to your local bank and pick up a few rolls of coins, look through it, and you can literally find treasure. You can find a gold coin in there that's worth thousands of dollars. Since I started my coin roll hunting journey and started this channel around 2 years ago, I have had all sorts of success. Some of the finds I have had have been epic, and I'm so glad that I have been able to share them with you guys. That feeling when your heart starts to beat fast and you get that pit in your stomach anytime you see a rare, low mintage, or old coin up ahead when you're going through a roll. There's very few things in life that top that, and that's why coin roll hunting is so awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you find it helpful. If you want to let me know what your favorite denomination is to hunt down in the comments, I would love to know. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for this one. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel. Until the next one, everybody, peace out and have a good one, y'all.